Hello, everyone. This is Brother Andrew. Today, we're going to be looking at the story of Saint Francis of Assisi. Saint Francis is very special to us because we are from Saint Francis International School. So, our school is named after Saint Francis. And this past Sunday was the feast day of Saint Francis of Assisi. So, everyone, put your listening ears on because now it's time for us to listen to the story of Saint Francis of Assisi. In the year 1181 or 1182, a lady named Pica gave birth to a boy in the town of Assisi in Italy. His father Pietro was away on a business trip in France, so she decided to name him Giovanni. When Pietro came back home, he liked France so much that he decided to call baby Giovanni by a new name, Francesco. This baby grew up to be the man we know today as Saint Francis of Assisi. Francis's father Pietro was a wealthy merchant. He sold expensive cloth for fancy clothes, and he was very rich. Francis grew up being a little spoiled. Francis was a poet, a singer, and a dreamer. When he was 20, he decided he wanted to be a soldier. When he went to his first battle, he was quickly captured and spent a whole year in prison. 2 years later, he tried to be a soldier again, sure that this was what he was supposed to be. All of a sudden, as he was about to leave, Francis had a sudden change of heart. He wasn't sure what he wanted to do anymore. But Jesus had a plan for him. Once Francis decided to ask God what he should do, he got an answer. One day, Francis was praying in a little church called San Damiano. As he was praying before the crucifix, Jesus began to speak to him. He told him, "Francis, Francis, go and repair my house, which, as you can see, is falling into ruin." At first, Francis thought Jesus was talking about the Church of San Damiano. He spent the next 2 years rebuilding the old chapel where Jesus spoke to him. But after he was done, he began to realize that Jesus wasn't talking about the church building. He was talking about the Catholic Church as a whole. In Francis's time, the church had become distracted by worldly power and riches. Jesus was calling Francis to set a new example to remind everyone what it meant to put God above everything else. Francis gave up all of his money and fancy clothes to live the rest of his life as a servant for God. This surprised a lot of people and made them very confused, especially his family. But Francis put his faith in Jesus, trusting that God knew what was best for him. Right away, people were very impressed by Francis. A lot of men decided they wanted to try and live the same way he did, giving away their possessions so that they could focus on serving God. On April 16th, 1210, Pope Innocent III gave Francis permission to start a new religious order. It was called the Order of Friars Minor. We also call them Franciscans. A few years later, a young girl named Claire wanted to join Francis as well. On March 28, 1212, Francis started a new order for women. They would live according to the same rules as the men. Today, we call them the Poor Clares. Francis felt a deep connection to the world around him. He saw everything in creation as a beautiful gift from God. He wrote a song praising God for the sun, the moon, the stars, fire, water, and the earth. Francis saw animals as brothers and sisters in God's family. Sometimes he would talk to them. He would preach the gospel to birds, and they would stop and listen. There was a rabbit who occasionally kept him company. There was one time where he told a wolf to stop attacking a village, and the wolf obeyed him. Francis was often very sick. One day it became clear that he would soon die. But Francis wasn't scared. He was ready to see Jesus. Francis died on October 3rd, 1226, while singing one last song to God. He was only 44 years old. Less than 2 years later, on July 16th, 1228, Pope Gregory IX canonized Francis, making him a saint in the Catholic Church. Francis saw God in Scripture, in his brother and sister Franciscans, and in creation. So I would like everyone to think for a moment and write down, where do you see God?